Well, hello and welcome to the broadcast. Happy World Oceans Day. That's today, and we're happy to talk about the Robert C. Seamans' journey across the Pacific from New Zealand to Southern California. The ship is currently on passage from Hawaii to Southern California, making excellent progress, as you can see by the ship's current position. In today's broadcast, we're going to talk with the science staff on board the vessel to see what it is they're seeing out there on the oceans. We're also going to talk with Dr. Witting and Dr. Blaire Umhau, Sea Semester Oceanography faculty, about World Ocean Day and all the things that brought all of us to the ocean and sea semester. But we talked to the ship just a few minutes ago, so let's check in with them.
Hi, Chris. This is Robert C. Seamans. Over.
Have you loud and clear. How you doing?
We are doing great. The wind's filled in a bit. It's a little bit north. Actually well north of west, and we're on a close reach, motor sailing with the 4 lowers, doing about 8 knots. Over.
Good copy, 8 knots. That's really impressive.
I have a scientist here who's eager to share all sorts of information. Over. Okay, here's Hillary.
So we've seen an increase in fluorescence since around the 2nd. So for about the last 3 days, we've seen an increase in the surface chlorophyll that we're seeing. And that's kind of been really interesting because we've been doing these net tows for plastics. So over the course of that time, we've also seen a little bit of a trend in a decrease in the amount of plastics that we're getting in the tows that we're doing. And with that decrease in plastic, we're also seeing an increase in biological biomass. Specifically, we're starting to see a lot more copepods and zooplankton grazers, which aligns really nicely with an increase in fluorescence and primary productivity, having an increase in that phytoplankton abundance and that photosynthetic biomass increases the number of grazers because they're feeding on that material.
Does the ocean look any different? Does it look and feel different from the really subtropical, the gyre waters? How would you describe that?
Yeah, the water is definitely a much darker shade of blue. It's that almost like purple shade of blue as opposed to some of the water in the tropical gyres, which has that closer to turquoise shade of blue. It's also been very overcast, so it's really a deep blue color of the ocean. We have not seen a huge number of windrows on the ocean, and as I said, the swells have been pretty small. And not a lot of wind, so not a lot of wind waves or wind rows appearing.
Any evidence of the subtropical front? So have they seen bird life?
Yeah, we've seen a few birds, not very many. We saw an albatross 2 days ago, but we have not seen a lot of marine life. We saw a couple of dolphins yesterday too. We saw 2 dolphins that followed us on the bow for a short period of time. But in terms of birds, it's been pretty low.
And were those the first dolphins of the trip?
Those were the first dolphins of the trip. Yeah, since we left Hawaii.
Anything on the sort of a floating debris front? How are the plastics patches looking like?
Yeah, so we've seen a steady increase in the amount of large floating plastics that we've seen. Yesterday, we definitely saw large amounts of floating plastics, including some SADs and some really large conglomerations of fishing nets and polypropylene lines. This has been generally increasing. It's been steady at a pretty high rate, and we've been logging that visually over the course of our watches. The thing that was really obvious in the first net tow that we did was that we collected a lot of these larger fragments of plastic. The subsequent net tows, you've seen much more of the really small fragments of things that are smaller than an inch, close to a centimeter and lower in terms of the size of the plastics that we're seeing. But we are still seeing a lot of large floating debris.
Would you mind giving us a little verbal description of the activities that they plan to do in the next few days?
Yeah, so today we're going to do our last Newson tow within the Pacific garbage patch to round out our set of 3 that have gone kind of across in an easterly transect through our cruise track. We're going to continue our observations of large floating macroplastics within the garbage patch also, as well as our general day-to-day ship upkeep and cleaning regimes that we normally go about. Yeah, we're making really good miles towards San Diego. We're now closer to San Diego than we are to anywhere else, which has been a nice turning point. Everyone's really enthusiastic about doing the new pontoons and has really enjoyed taking a little break and having a look in the buckets and checking out what kind of marine life we have out here.
Great, Hillary. Just a big thank you from both of us, Jan and I, for what you're doing. Everybody loves it ashore here, and thanks again for all the effort you're putting into it. With us to help celebrate World Ocean Day is Dr. Jan Witting, Professor of Oceanography at Sea Semester, and Dr. Blaire Umhau, Professor of Oceanography at Sea Semester. Jan, what is this whole World Ocean Day thing anyway?
Yeah, that's an interesting question. So it's actually a Canadian idea, initially coming from the 90s. As a counterbalance to Earth Day, you'd think, okay, so isn't Earth Day big enough for us to think about everything that's on the planet? And well, in a way, yes, absolutely. It brings a lot of people together. But if you look at the view where we started with the Robert C. Seamans in the Pacific, and you turn the globe just to look at their cruise track, you really quickly realize that from that angle, fully half of the planet looks just blue. It's an ocean, right? So an ocean planet. So the thinking is that the oceans are big enough, significant enough of a habitat for our planet that we really need to think about it in a focused way. And so since 2008, it's been part of a UN-sanctioned event where their target is to get people thinking about the oceans and thinking about the ocean's role in the Sustainable Development Goals that the UN, as a global forum, has helped people forge. So this is a day when as many people we can get around the globe to think about oceans, the future of the oceans, and how to act to secure the future for both the oceans and the rest of the planet too.
The COVID-19 pandemic is a sharp reminder of how we are all intimately connected to each other and to nature. As we work to end the pandemic and build back better, we have a once-in-a-generation opportunity and responsibility to correct our relationship with the natural world, including the world's seas and oceans. We rely on the oceans for food, livelihoods, transport and trade. And as the lungs of our planet and its largest carbon sink, the oceans play a vital role in regulating the global climate. Today, sea levels are rising due to climate change, threatening lives and livelihoods in low-lying nations and coastal cities and communities around the world. The oceans are becoming more acidic, putting marine biodiversity and essential food chains in jeopardy. And plastic pollution is everywhere. On this World Oceans Day, we focus on innovation for a sustainable ocean. Better understanding of the oceans is essential for conserving fish stocks and discovering new products and medicines. The upcoming United Nations Decade of Ocean Science for Sustainable Development will provide impetus and a common framework for action. I urge governments and all stakeholders to commit to the conservation and sustainability of the oceans through innovation and science.
The goal of the Oceans Day is to get people to think about the oceans and get engaged. And one of the ways that we've thought about doing it is to ask some of our colleagues why they care about the oceans and why are they working in the ocean sphere. And I guess it's just fair for me to start by answering that question. So I'm part of the Cousteau generation, right? So Jacques Cousteau, famous French ocean scientist and a videographer, filmographer. He got me turned on as a little kid into what the oceans were. I grew up actually on lakes in Finland, and but he brought the ocean in stories, in books, and in film, and I've been hooked ever since. I started with looking at first coral reefs as a place, as an ecosystem, but then quickly drifted out to the ocean, to the blue waters, because there is just so much we don't know. This is really part of what makes it such a compelling thing for me is the mystery. Helping solve them, helping study that environment is a big draw for me. But the fact that there's always something new to learn, and while you're looking for answers, using the tools of science, you get to go to absolutely cool places, and the ocean also is spiritually refreshing, being out there in amongst the waves. So that's my story. Blaire, would you like to tell us a little bit about what got you involved?
I grew up in Maryland, and the closest sidewalk to my house happens to be right along the Chesapeake Bay. And my parents had a house on the eastern shore of Maryland, also on the water, and my dad would take me out sailing in the mornings. And I think I can agree with Jan that is a bit of a spiritual experience. Sailing is a different type of boating in that it's quiet. There's no engine grating in the background, so you can hear the water, you can hear the birds, you can hear the fish jumping. That got me really interested in what was underneath the boat that we were floating around in. And so I did some summer camps. When I lived in Kenya, I did a lot of snorkeling on these beautiful coral reefs in the Indian Ocean. And then when I was in high school, I had the opportunity to do a high school program with SEA, and I thought, this is really cool. I would like to do this for a job. And so that's sort of how I got into it.
So from the Chesapeake and Indian Ocean to SEA, there's a PhD in the middle there. What kind of professionally, what has that looked like for you?
So undergraduate at the University of Miami doing marine science and chemistry. Why is the ocean salty? Why does the ocean smell like the ocean? And those are questions that we can answer through chemistry. And then the job I wanted, which was to come back and work as a chief scientist with SEA, meant that I needed to do a PhD. So I went to the University of South Carolina to do my PhD. And I did a lot of really interesting work that sort of takes biology and geology and chemistry and mix them up into what we call biogeochemistry, to look at how carbon moves from the atmosphere through the food chain down into the deep ocean and stays in the deep ocean for thousands of years. So now I'm at SEA doing the same thing, teaching students about that biogeochemistry, teaching them that there's more to the ocean than what you see on the surface. There's more to the ocean than what you can just see under the water. And I really enjoy what I do.
So we're just two ocean scientists geeking out here, but people go out to the ocean for many different reasons. And Chris, you're a professional mariner. How did you choose that path?
Yeah, it started for me when I was looking at colleges. I had grown up on the water, fortunate to do that, fishing and boating, and then I ended up at the Coast Guard Academy, which gives you a discount on your tuition, which was a big factor for me. And then so I started a career in the Coast Guard as a deck watch officer on cutters. And I kind of started in the world of, protecting people on the sea and then protecting people from the sea. So doing search and rescue and whatnot, law enforcement, kind of protecting fisheries and all that kind of stuff. And I really grew to love the ocean. And kind of the third tenet of the Coast Guard is not only protecting people from the sea, protecting people on the sea, but also protecting the sea itself, protecting the ocean itself. And that mission grew and grew with me over the course of my Coast Guard career. And when the chance to come to work for SEA came about, I jumped all over it. And so I'm able to kind of combine my love for the ocean with also an education in sailing. So SEA is really a perfect fit for me. I'm fortunate to be in that role as the ship captain, and I get to tell everybody what to do, which is awesome. Well, thanks for watching. I hope you enjoyed the broadcast today about World Oceans Day and the Robert C. Seaman's journey to Southern California across the Pacific. Thanks for watching and have a good day.